I'm a 42-year-old BJJ black belt who's been training for 23 years. I've been promoted through the ranks and I've also been the one doing the promoting, so I have a few ideas on how this works. Today, I'm going to break down everything that actually matters to get promoted in Jiu-Jitsu. This includes some of the more obvious stuff, but there's also one thing that really matters at most gyms that doesn't get talked about enough. And with that out of the way, here are 6 things that actually matter to get promoted. Let's start with the most obvious one. Number 1, how you perform against others your rank and above. So this one's pretty obvious, but I think should always be one of the major considerations for promotions. And honestly, it's one of the things I love most about jiu-jitsu. Like, nobody expects white belts to be submitting purple belts, at least routinely. But if you're constantly getting smashed by every other white belt in the class, then I think it's a sign you probably need more time to get blue belt. But I also think there's some nuance here worth talking about. It's not just about tapping people out, especially at lower belts. Like, say for example, you are catching some higher belts with your one move. Like, say in a roll, you tapped out a much higher belt with a sneaky buggy choke. Or say you have like a strong ankle lock that you're constantly spamming and you happen to tap some people out who are higher ranked than you, but you actually lack some solid fundamentals in your game. Like that buggy choke example, instead of working to retain guard, you give up your guard to try to set up a buggy choke. Or say that ankle lock example, your guard passing game is very underdeveloped because you're always falling back on the leg. Or maybe you're clueless at escaping the side controller mount, even though you're very capable of pouring it on when you get a dominant position. Now, this varies a lot from school to school, but in my opinion, especially at the lower belts, you want to see some competence and understanding of the fundamentals, not just who you can tap. And speaking for myself personally, I feel like I may have gotten my blue belt a little too early. Like when I was a white belt, I was able to sweep, some good purple belts with a couple of my favorite sweeps. I had a good elbow escape, but I was pretty much terrible and useless in positions like side control when I'm on top and the mount position. And I don't think this is particularly common. Like, I've never been to a gym that does this, but some gyms actually have belt tests where you demonstrate your skills and your knowledge of certain techniques before you can get promoted. Number 2, time on the mats and consistency. So even if you're really talented, you can't just show up to class a few times, disappear for a month, and expect to be promoted. Professors notice who's consistent. And some gyms will track this and even say so with minimum requirements. Like you might need 30 classes for a stripe, 200 to even be eligible for a blue belt. And other gyms, especially smaller gyms, it's a lot more informal and the coach or professor will just keep track of these things in their heads. And just because you show up consistently doesn't guarantee you're going to get promoted. That's why there's more than one thing on this list. A few other things to keep in mind. If you go to a big gym and they don't have like formal attendance tracking with index cards or computers, and you're going to class 3 or 4 times a week with 3 or 4 different coaches, then they might not have a clear picture of your progress.
You took everything from me.
I don't even know who you are.
This is different than if you always go to those 3 or 4 classes with the same exact coach. Related to that, switching gyms will often hurt your chances of getting promoted more quickly. Like, it's rare that I've seen someone switch gyms and then a few months later get promoted. There are a few reasons for this that relate to other things in this list we're going to go over, but they actually just want to see if you've earned the promotion, and at some level they want to see if you're going to stick around.
Training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu takes years. Years of sweat, injuries, and personal growth. But what if it didn't have to? What if you could skip all that? Introducing the Buy Your Black Belt Today Complete Certification System. Designed for busy professionals, entrepreneurs, and anyone who values their time more than training. Our proven system includes an online black belt assessment. Don't worry, it's open book and very forgiving. You'll also receive your official black belt certificate, suitable for framing, and will impress your friends and family. But wait, there's more! Order now and receive this limited edition commemorative black belt coin. Individually numbered, symbolically earned.
I went from white belt to black belt in under a month. My gym still doesn't even know.
People just assume I know what I'm doing.
Act now. Call 1-800-BUY-BELT. That's 1-800-BUY-BELT. Just 3 easy payments of $19.99.95.
See the world's hottest all-real, all-naked girls going wild. Girls Gone Wild.
Number 3, competition results. So another factor to consider is competition results. If you're competing and winning consistently at your rank, this absolutely can affect your rate of progress. Some gyms will rate competition success very heavily to gauge whether you're ready for a promotion or not.
If you ain't first, you're last.
And some actually care much less. I mean, it's pretty simple. If a student performs well at a few tournaments, it at least shows they're strong for their rank, going back to number 1 on this list. And honestly, many other coaches, myself included, they just want you to compete at lower ranks just for the experience, and they'll promote you based on other factors regardless of how you perform. That being said, counterintuitively, sometimes there's a much stricter criteria for the most serious competitors, even if they're consistently beating most people at the gym at their rank or even higher. And the reason for this brings us on to our next one. Number 4, your age and goals. So this one might not be spoken about enough, but often the criteria isn't the same for everyone, even at the same gym. Your age and goals can actually be a huge factor. For example, if you're a 20-year-old full-time competitor and jiu-jitsu is life, how do you compare to that 50-year-old father of 3 with a full-time career who can only train 3 times a week at the most? So obviously the young athlete is going to progress more quickly, but the expectations for promotions are often adjusted, taking these things into account. And this is a reason why for serious competitors, the standards are much stricter. You want them to be strong at their levels. Like, you're not often going to see these people promoted just before a big competition season. Like, for example, this may have changed now as the sport has grown and everything has gotten much more competitive. But I remember over 10 years ago, one major team had this requirement for the most serious competitors that they had to win worlds twice at their belt rank to get promoted. Speaking of formal requirements, I should mention IBJJF actually has their own minimums, like 2 years at blue, 18 months at purple, and 1 year at brown. Some gyms follow these pretty strictly, others are looser with them, but it's something you should think about if you're competing in their tournaments, because they'll actually enforce them at registration. With all that being said, the point is the person training next to you might be judged slightly differently based on different criteria with the things in this list. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. I actually think that's the way things should work. By the way, if you have questions about your training, things you might feel weird about asking your coach about, like things related to getting promotions, Digitsu has a free AI coaching assistant called Sudo. It's free to try. To check it out, you can go to digitsu.com/Sudo, and there's a link in the description. Which brings us on to our next one. Number 5, ask the right questions. Based on everything we've covered so far, depending on your gym, you still might not know primarily what they base their promotions on. Or even if you think you know, or they formally list these things out, it might vary slightly for you depending on your goals. And even if you know all these things for sure, it still might not be clear what areas you're lacking or what you should be focusing on to get promoted. So this is where, if you're unsure, you should ask your coaches for constructive feedback. Ask questions like, what should I be working on? What should be my focus to get to the next level? And they might give you advice immediately, like you need to work on your escapes from the back position, like you're really weak from there. And I've personally been asked questions like this from students before, and sometimes I immediately didn't have a good answer for them, but it made me pay closer attention to them and then give them advice later, maybe not that day, but in following classes. And this is great if you feel like you might be close to promotion, but asking constructive questions at any point is good advice because then it gives you good feedback so you can improve faster. But all of this comes with one very big and important disclaimer. Don't just ask in a non-constructive way something like, hey coach, when am I getting my blue belt? I've personally seen people get their promotions pushed way back doing stuff like this and having this sense of entitlement, which brings us on to our next one. Number 6, attitude and how you carry yourself. This is the thing I mentioned at the beginning, the one that most people don't think about at first for belt promotions. Your attitude, how you carry yourself, how you contribute to the community at your gym, on and off the mat, are very big factors. Things like, are you a good training partner? Do you help the team? Do you help newer students? How do you handle losing? Like if you get tapped out, do you make a big scene and make everyone uncomfortable? Are you coachable? Do you pay attention? Overall, the question to ask yourself is, does your presence at the gym make it better or does it make it worse for everyone else? And honestly, this is the sort of thing that might not be formally talked about as much in gyms, but I've seen it firsthand. Like I can remember someone I can think of many years ago who was a blue belt. They were very talented. They were crushing everyone else at their rank and even some higher belts they were tapping out. But they had many of the attitude problems I just mentioned before. And while this got better over time as coaches talked to them about their behavior, I know for a fact it pushed their promotion back for a very long time. And there's good reason why attitude matters so much, and it relates to everything else on this list. When someone promotes you, they're saying you are worthy of that promotion, and it's a reflection of what they value and a reflection of what they think is important in jiu-jitsu. And attitude, that is a major part of it. So those are 6 things that actually matter for getting promoted in jiu-jitsu. Performance, consistency, competition if your gym cares about it, your age, your goals, asking the right questions, and your attitude. At the end of the day, you want to be someone that your coach or professor wants to promote, not just technically, but as a member of your gym and team. But honestly, I wouldn't obsess over the belt. Your goal with training every day should be to get better at jiu-jitsu. If you're obsessed with getting a promotion, you might try to win every role, always play your A game, not put yourself in bad positions, and this can hurt your long-term development. Personally, when I see students that are anxious or really want to be promoted, I might not say this, but my first thought is don't be in such a rush. It's really not that big of a deal. Anyway, it's always good to feel like you're at the top of your level before you get promoted, because once you get promoted, you're going to put a lot more pressure on yourself and your training partners might come at you just that much harder. The belt should just be a recognition of your time, effort, skills, and contribution to the community at your gym. It will come, and when it does, you'll know you've actually earned it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're interested, I have a newsletter where I go deeper into the topics for my videos. If you sign up, I'll send you free instructional content from grapplers like Mason Fowler, Eddie Cummings, Jason Rao, and more. If you want to check it out, you can go to digitsu.com/SeanABJJ, and there's a link in the description. As always, thank you for watching.